What's up y'all, Jmaculate here. In today's video, I'll be going over some concepts on the Sonicware Lofi-12 XT that'll help you turn single pattern loops into more varied arrangements. We'll talk about how to clone a pattern and edit certain copies of it to fit sections of a song, like an intro or a hook version. I'll also talk a little bit about my philosophy when it comes to pattern management on this device. Alright, let's get to it. Let's start by talking about some basics when it comes to projects and patterns. On the Lofi-12 XT, the project file is a collection of loaded samples and saved patterns. You can load up to 256 samples, or 64 megabytes of samples per project, and you can save up to 128 patterns within a project. The patterns are quite versatile. Each pattern can have different tempos, different samples assigned to the tracks, different sequences, different effect or mix page parameters, and many other unique elements. Projects can also contain 16 songs, which is basically a chain of patterns. I actually won't talk much about that because I don't have a lot of experience with this device's song mode. But the most important point here is that a project is actually a collection of patterns and loaded samples, which means you can create multiple beats or arrangements within a single project. This might be counterintuitive if you associate the term project with a single beat, like on a DAW or many other samplers. But it's much more efficient to use the Lofi-12 XT's project files to store patterns for several different beats or arrangements. Let's use this project I have loaded up to talk through this. This project is called Beats05, and I have about 30 patterns saved here. But they're not 30 patterns with variations of the same sample chops and drum loops that all form one single beat. And they're also not 30 different beats. I actually have them organized as groups of 3 or 4 patterns, and each group comprises a single beat. Let's take these patterns in the bottom left as an example. You can see I named them all Embrace with a number at the end. There's Embrace 0, Embrace 1, Embrace 2, and Embrace 3. I'm going to play them in order and put some text on screen that explains each pattern's purpose, starting with Embrace 0.
Shadows whisper soft and low, age-ray edges of my soul. Twilight's last, I'm not alone. Her gentle touch makes me whole.
So as you can hear, they're all mostly copies of the same pattern. The drums and the bass line are identical across all the patterns. The only variables are the sample chops, the vocal chops, and then some filters and extra track layers on a few different tracks. But I could easily loop through that sequence, add some dynamic mute outs, and call it a finished beat. Now that I've shown how this looks at the end of the process, let's start with the finished single pattern and copy it out and edit it to fit different parts of the song. Let's listen to this pattern I created. I'll unmute the various parts so you can hear what's at play here. pretty happy with this as the main pattern, but just like in the previous example, I want to create 3 extra variations to cycle through to keep things interesting as I play it back. The first variation I want to work on is an alternate sample chop pattern. Let's start by saving a copy of pattern 1 onto the next free pattern slot. Now that I have the pattern copied, I'm going to mute the bass, the guitar, and the vocal chops so I can focus on the sample chops. I'm also going to delete the notes on the sample chop track by holding the clear button and then pressing track 1's pad. Then I'll select note to clear the note data, which will keep the other parameters like the loaded sample. The other thing I'm going to do here is remove the slices from the sample and add new ones. Unfortunately, the Lofi-12 XT only lets you have 15 slices within a single sample. There's no A, B, C, or D bank, or other ways to have more than these 15 pads assigned to unique slices. However, the patterns on this device have independent parameters for the samples in pretty much every other setting, including the sample slices. So my main pattern had the previous slices sequenced, but with this pattern, I'll be using a later section of the sample that I didn't have enough pads to slice on my first one. course, I'll need to add all these to a mute group by pressing each pad, then turning the A knob from the pad screen on the SND page. Now, let's try sequencing these. I like that as the alternate sample chop pattern, and the baseline still fits, so I don't need to resequence that. So I'm also going to change the names of some of these patterns to help fit the structure of organization that I use. Generally, I have patterns with the number 0 as an intro or outro, and then 1 is generally the main pattern, 2 is generally the alternate pattern or a performance pattern, and then 3 is generally a hook pattern. I'm also going to shift the patterns around a bit so that they fit the same structure as my other patterns. So I'm going to move 2, 1 row down, and I'll move 1 row down as well, which gives me room for 0 and 3. Next up is the hook sequence, pattern 3. This pattern's actually already done since it's just a copy of my original main pattern, pattern 1, with all the tracks, including the vocal chops, unmuted. And last up is the intro. When I was chopping the sample for the alternate pattern, I had an idea for using the last few slices for the intro. So I'm going to copy the alternate pattern, pattern 2, to the first slot, and then rename it pattern 0. The first thing I'll do is clear the notes from the sample chop track, track 1. Now I'll sequence those final slices. And then I'll mute the drums, unmute the vocal chops, and throw on a quick low-pass filter. Alright, let's listen to everything from pattern 0 to pattern 3. It's a simple concept, but organizing your work like this on the Lofi-12 XT can take you pretty far along in the beatmaking process. By cloning a pattern and adjusting the copies to fit specific sections of a song, you can really build a solid foundation for creating a full track. And you can follow this process multiple times within a single project so that one project can house multiple beats that you can very quickly switch between. Well, that does it for this video. Thanks for watching, see you next time.